The Narrative State Podcast with Sabrina Speak Easy. Episode 3, America's Mythic Genealogy. Crowley, Hubbard, Epstein. If you look at modern conspiracy culture and think, this feels like bad fan fiction, that's because it is. But it's fan fiction built on real people who blurred the line between myth and manipulation. Today, we're tracing a very specific bloodline of American elite weirdness. Aleister Crowley, L. Ron Hubbard, and Jeffrey Epstein. 3 men separated by decades, but united by a shared understanding. If you control ritual, you control people. If you control information, you control institutions. And if you control bodies, you control everything else. Not because magic is real, because leverage is. Think of the genealogy like a software architecture. Crowley's the prototype: sex, ritual, power, and psychological destabilization. Hubbard, the operating system: institutionalized mind control, secrecy, confession as collateral. And Epstein, the application layer: bodies, blackmail, biopolitics, access to scientists, billionaires, and intelligence networks. None of these men invented abuse. They just professionalized it. And their cultural fingerprints are all over America's obsession with pedophile cabals, secret societies, elite rituals, occult Hollywood, the idea that the powerful live by a different moral physics. The problem isn't that people are imagining too much. It's that they're pattern matching to the wrong level. Crowley wasn't powerful because he knew magic. He was powerful because he understood psychology before psychology was popular. Crowley discovered that breaking taboos, manipulating shame, ritualizing sex, isolating followers, aestheticizing rebellion could make people doubt their own instincts and trust his instead. The man basically ran a Victorian-era trauma bonding startup. His entire do what thou wilt ethos wasn't about freedom, it was about destabilization. Crowley's real innovation was ritualized boundary collapse. Once you get people to violate their own moral code for enlightenment, you own them. That idea will show up again. Hubbard openly said, if you want to make $1 million, start a religion. And then he built Scientology, a corporation disguised as a church, disguised as a self-help program, disguised as a surveillance system, disguised as a family. The man industrialized Crowley's entire playbook. His innovations: auditing, confessions acquired under duress, future blackmail, the tone scale, spiritual hierarchy as an emotional obedience chart, and theta, dissent reframed as moral contamination, Sea Org, isolation, labor, loyalty oaths, secret levels, controlled flow of forbidden knowledge to maintain dependency on Hubbard. Hubbard didn't need magic. He had paperwork. Crowley destabilized the psyche. Hubbard made destabilization bureaucratic. And like Crowley, he fused sexuality, spirituality, and shame into a single ecosystem of control. Enter Jeffrey Epstein. Not a religious leader, not a philosopher, barely a financier. His product wasn't insight or ritual. His product was access. Epstein weaponized 3 things: bodies, specifically underage girls, used as tools to compromise powerful men; science, he cultivated relationships with Harvard, MIT, and elite researchers. He funded projects related to genetics, fertility, biosurvival, transhumanist fantasies. This wasn't philanthropy. It was biopolitical signaling. If you're working on the future of humanity, you take my calls. Social capital. Epstein kept the powerful close, though. Blackmail money, flattery, sexual access, emotional manipulation, the illusion of exclusivity. He understood what Crowley and Hubbard understood. If you control taboo, you control elites. His island was not just a crime scene. It was a symbolic stage, a place where secrecy, sexuality, and science blurred into a single power structure. Here is the connective tissue. Crowley ritualized transgression and weaponized taboo, destabilized morality, confused guilt with enlightenment. Hubbard brought institutional obedience, turned transgression into a hierarchy, then trauma into revenue, turned confession into control. Epstein, elite biopolitics, turned bodies into leverage, turned secrecy into currency, turned science into access. Crowley targeted believers, Hubbard targeted seekers, and Epstein targeted power. 3 eras, 3 ecosystems, 1 psychological logic. Control the story people tell about themselves, and you control the people. This is why conspiracy culture fixates on cannibal cabals, sex rituals, elite islands, dark forces, hidden knowledge, pedophile networks, genetic engineering, spiritual warfare, Gnostic knowledge, and the eternal enemy, the elites. Because the culture remembers the outline but not the details. Conspiracy culture isn't delusional because it sees corruption and exploitation. Those things are real. What's delusional is the jump from psychological pattern to supernatural conspiracy. People sense the Crowley-Hubbard-Epstein architecture in the background and then add demons, lizard people, interdimensional child traffickers, quantum rituals, Hillary shapeshifting on camera. The emotional truth is real. The mythology layered onto it is not. Conspiracy culture gets the vibe right and the physics wrong. So why this mythic lineage still works? Because modern people are spiritually malnourished. The elite genealogy of taboo, secrecy, and control becomes a mythic shorthand for anxiety, alienation, fear of institutions, fear of sexual predation, fear of being manipulated, fear of being powerless, the sense that someone else is pulling the strings. People aren't stupid. They're overwhelmed. And myth fills the gap where governance fails. Crowley, Hubbard, Epstein. 3 different centuries, 3 different aesthetics, 1 recurring theme. Control people's boundaries, control their shame, control their stories, and control their world. Conspiracy culture remembers the trauma but forgets the history. Next episode, we turn from the myth makers to the media makers. Diddy, Hollywood, child actors, sexualized control, and how influence factories groom people not just for exploitation, but for narrative utility. Because once you understand the genealogy of power, you start seeing the patterns everywhere, especially in places with good lighting and NDAs. Thanks for listening to the Narrative State Podcast with Sabrina Speakeasy. Keep an open mind, but don't believe the bullshit.